All right, everyone. Happy New Year, January 1st, 2025. Welcome, everyone, to the He Said, She Said podcast. I'm your host, Big Red, along with my lovely host, Tony. We're here. We're going to discuss NFL Week 18 predictions, playoff pictures. We're going to go over the fantasy recap, biggest losers, biggest winners. Also, we're going to do all the college football predictions and bowl games and things of that such. So welcome everyone in. How are you doing, Tony?
I'm good. Happy New Year, Big Red.
Yeah, Happy New Year.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
gonna be a good year. I can feel it.
yeah, it's definitely going to be a great year. Big things coming for sure. But yeah, ahead of the NFL schedule, we have a playoff race ahead. We have a few teams still trying to get those last couple of spots. We'll start off with the AFC. Um, you have the Chiefs, obviously, you're going to have the number one overall seed. You got a couple teams fighting to get in, including one of your teams, the Cincinnati Bengals. They will be playing the Pittsburgh Steelers on Sunday. They will definitely need some help to get in. There's a couple other games, the Chiefs and the Denver Broncos. Denver's also fighting to get in, so that'll be a tough game for them. And also, it's Miami,
And the Jets.
uh,
Miami
and
plays the Jets.
yeah, Miami
Can't
plays the
believe I'm
Jets.
relying on Aaron Rodgers to get my Bengals into the playoffs. That's crazy.
Yeah, and he's definitely had a rough year, Aaron Rodgers. So, I'm definitely kind of rooting for the Bengals to get in. I'm here in Ohio, so that would be great for the state
Yeah.
for
I
sure.
mean, I am biased because they're my team. But I do think that the Bengals would be the most interesting team to see in that wild card spot. When you look at the Broncos and Bo Nix is just a rookie, they have a
Mhm.
lot of potential, but I can wait on seeing them in the playoffs. And then the Miami Dolphins just doesn't feel like their year. All the injuries with Tua,
Uh-huh.
Tyreek underperforming. I think the Bengals are the most exciting team to lock up that spot if they can do it.
Yeah,
Um, and unfortunately, they're just relying on a lot of outside stuff. I'm not worried about them going to Pittsburgh and beating the Steelers. I think
yeah,
that's
I think they
probably
could
the
definitely
most
beat the
doable of
Steelers.
the three things that they need.
Yeah, no, they're playing hot. They're hot right now, so they're a team that's definitely on fire. I don't see them. It'll be a tough game in Pittsburgh, but I can definitely see them coming out with that win. Um, The Chiefs and Broncos game is going to be kind of tricky because the Chiefs are probably going to be
Sitting.
benching a lot of their players. Broncos will be playing a lot of theirs, to try to get in. So that'll be interesting. The Dolphins and Jets. Uh, I don't know. We'll see how that goes. I don't know if I can trust Aaron Rodgers, but in order for the Bengals to get in, let's see what he does.
Yeah.
But also, the NFC playoff picture, you got the battle for the number one seed. You got Detroit and Minnesota Sunday night football this weekend. That's a huge game, probably the biggest game as far as the division goes.
It might
Um,
be more exciting than any playoff game we see this year. I'm gonna say that right now. That may be the most exciting game we see this year. I think it'll be a low scoring game, honestly. I think it's gonna be a
yeah,
defensive game.
yeah, no, I think so too. And then also you got those guys up in Minnesota. They're playing really well, and I mean, so is Detroit. It's like the clash of the best. They're two of the hottest teams in the league for sure, and it's definitely going to come down. The game's in Detroit, so you know that's
Having the
a
home
big.
field advantage is definitely something that I don't think anybody takes for granted. And
Hmm.
it's going to be a big, important part of that game. The Lions are going to have their fans rallying around them, but the Vikings are hot right now, and the Lions have a lot of injuries still. They may have Alex Anzalone coming back.
Oh
He
yeah,
I don't know if he'll be back for this game, but he should be back for the playoffs, and that's huge for them. That's a huge.
yeah, that's definitely huge for them.
They've been struggling. And the Vikings, I mean, they've really rallied behind Sam Darnold, who's having an incredible season.
Definitely.
Connell has done an incredible job with him. I think right situation, right moment, right time. But those guys really seem to love him. And honestly, for me, that makes my heart happy. He's had a rough go of it in the league, and I think it's
Yeah, he's
a moment
definitely had
to
a
shine right
journey.
now.
Yeah, no, Sam Darnold's definitely had a journey. He one of the top picks picked in the draft, and just bouncing around, and then finally, getting another chance with Minnesota. Then they drafted a quarterback first round. Then he gets injured, so then Darnold gets the keys again, and he definitely took advantage of it for sure. I think that job is pretty much his for the future.
Yeah, I can't see them putting him aside for JJ McCarthy next season. I think you got to ride with your guy and your guys who they're supporting. And in this moment, I think the team has really rallied behind Sam Darnold, and
one Hundred percent.
I don't see why you would take that away. And I think Kevin O'Connell's too smart of a coach to kind of mess with that right now.
No, I agree. Kevin O'Connell's definitely done a great job up there. You also got a couple teams still in battle for the NFC South. You got the Buccaneers and Falcons. Falcons had control, but they lost last week. So, kind of put the control back in Tampa Bay's hands, and they'll be playing the New Orleans Saints this Sunday. Um, Basically, if they win, they're in. So Atlanta needs a little help with Tampa Bay to lose, and Atlanta needs to win against Carolina on Sunday as well. So,
Yeah, I definitely think Atlanta can win against Carolina, but the Bucks losing, I don't know. I don't think that's in the cards. I think Baker Mayfield has done an absolutely phenomenal job with that team, despite losing
definitely.
Chris Godwin, despite injuries throughout the season. Um, Mike Evans has been the guy. He was hurt for a little bit, but he's a
Mhm.
workhorse. He's one of those guys that I always have on my fantasy team. He's a consistent producer.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Gets a
He's
lot of
reliable.
end zone work, and Bucky Irving has really emerged as a fantastic option for them in the run game. So I
Mhm.
think the Bucks are in a really good place despite what seemed like something that was going to be like season disastrous for them.
Sure. Yeah, yeah.
Godwin went out.
Yeah, it kind of looked bad for them guys, but they kind of rallied, and now they're controlling their own destiny right now to get into the playoffs and make a run. So,
And as for the Falcons, I do think I feel bad for Kirk Cousins. He's had a rough go of it coming back from the Achilles situation. But
uh-huh.
I do think maybe if they had decided to play Penix a little bit sooner, he could have found more of a rhythm with the offense. You can tell that he's still finding his rhythm,
Yeah.
finding his footing, and to do that to him in, the last 2 weeks of the season, I don't know if that's a playoff team at this point.
No, you're right. I kind of agree with the whole Penix thing. They definitely should have let him get in there a little earlier. Cousins was playing bad a few games, and kind of should have just let him go a little earlier. Now, with him, if they do make the playoffs, I feel like they're going to have to rely heavy on Bijan to run the ball. He's going to have to have a great game to kind of help him in the passing game, develop the passing game. So definitely. Um,
Let's talk about the schedule, the way it's all set up. I think it's really interesting what the NFL has decided to do with putting the AFC North games on Saturday, specifically that Bengals Steelers
uh-huh.
game. Putting
Yep.
that on Saturday and then waiting until Sunday in the 4:25 slot to play the other two games that the Bengals will need in order to get into the playoff. That's really good marketing on the NFL's part, I think.
Definitely.
It's going to keep everybody watching. It's going to
100%.
ensure that the Bengals play their starters because they have to win that game.
Uh-huh.
And it's going to ensure that everybody tunes into those 4:25 games.
Yeah, no, it definitely does. That is, the NFL, they're geniuses with that, with the marketing and making sure they get people to tune in based off the schedule. They definitely do a well job at that. That was a great point for sure.
Yeah.
Um, so who do you have for like your MVPs, offensive rookie of the years, defensive rookie of the year, comeback player maybe?
Come Comeback player for me might be Sam Darnold. I don't know.
That's what I was thinking that too, but was he comeback had to come back from an injury, I would think.
I think it's from an injury, but like if you just
Well, he gets most improved for sure. That was
he's definitely the most improved player. I know Joe Burrow's in the conversation for comeback player.
Mhm.
Obviously, coming off of a huge injury, there was a lot of doubt. Um,
Yep.
as to what his game was going to look like, and he's having what I would argue is an MVP season. So that would definitely, for me, make him the comeback player of the year with all the doubts
Hmm.
about the throwing wrist and all of that. But I don't know. I would argue Joe for MVP, although I know that there is a really good case for Josh Allen, there's a really good case for Lamar Jackson, and there's a really good case for Joe. And if you compare the stats, it really is a very tight race, in my opinion, between those three.
Yeah, no, no, no. Don't forget about my boy though, Saquon. He's definitely still there in the race. He needs like 105 yards, I think, to break Eric Dickerson's all-time record. That's like a 40-year-old record. It's been
I
standing.
agree. I agree. It's an old record. I just think that the MVP, it unfortunately is a quarterback
It's the
award.
quarterback award.
Quarterback award.
I hate that about the league, because it's like, other guys, from other positions will never get a chance. The running back position really diminished over the years. So for Saquon to have such a big year at his first year with Philly, that's definitely a plus for him. But no, besides Saquon, though, I like Josh Allen. He's had a excellent year. He's probably my lead right now. Most improved or comeback player.
Whoa. I want to talk more about this MVP situation. You're rushing through it here, Big Red. You're rushing through it. This is arguably, I think, the most discussed award, and I think we have to dive in a little bit deeper and go a little bit further and really, really talk about it because it's such an interesting award, and I think that it has been marketed differently over the years, and I think a lot of the MVP voters this year have gotten online. I've seen like Emmanuel Acho and Dan Orlovsky. They've gotten online and really discussed like what it means to them voting for that MVP and what that
Hmm.
means and how it differs from the offensive player of the year, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
The MVP is who is the most valuable player to their team and who is doing the most with what they have. And I saw some really interesting breakdowns of Lamar, Josh, and Joe and kind of where they stand. And we could throw some statistics up in the video version of this podcast, but essentially it boils down to um, Josh Allen probably has the best offensive line of those three teams.
Uh-huh.
The Ravens have the best run game, and the Bengals and Joe Burrow, they have the best passing
Pass.
and offense.
Hmm.
They probably have the best offensive attack of those teams. So, but but the worst defense and,
Uh-huh.
and probably the worst offensive line of that group. The Ravens, they have a mediocre defense
Yeah, they're okay.
and a really decent passing attack, but their run game is really where their strengths
The
lie.
bread and butter.
So it's
Hmm.
interesting if you kind of pull up like the different statistics of it of like passes thrown behind the line, play action passes, percentage of like pressured dropbacks. The differential between these three quarterbacks, it's so split.
Yeah.
And I do think that if you look at all of the stats and you put them all out there, to me, it maybe actually looks like this is Lamar's award to lose. But
Yeah, I mean,
the
it kind of
talk
it,
is right now is heavy on Josh Allen and Joe Burrow. So I think that's interesting.
yeah. I'm really heavy on Josh Allen too. I don't know. Lamar, he's definitely doing well this year. He's having one of his best seasons for sure. He just broke Michael Vick's all-time rushing record for a quarterback. So congrats to him on that. Um, but I do think Joe Burrow is. I would say Allen one, Burrow close to, and Lamar three. But only reason why I say Joe Burrow two is because the Bengals dealt with a lot of turmoil in the beginning of the year too. They had a kind of rough patch. They started off real rough. Um,
Always do.
yeah, yeah, and then Burrow, he just kind of kicked it in gear. And he's literally the most valuable player of his team for sure. Like, where would the Bengals' chances be without Burrow in the mix? So
Yeah.
The only thing that kind of makes me not think that Burrow will win it is if he doesn't get in the playoffs.
I
I
was gonna
think that
say if the Bengals make the playoffs, I think Joe's a lock for it. I think he should, or sorry, let me rephrase that. I think he should be a lock for it if the
okay.
Bengals make the playoffs. If the Bengals miss the playoffs, I do agree with you. I think it's going to be Josh Allen. I think it's his year to win it. I
Yeah,
think he's had the most, he's been the most talked about player when it comes to that MVP award.
definitely, 100%. Offensive player of the year, I think, will be Saquon. I think he will probably get that award just because he'll be kind of excluded from the MVP race. But
I
I mean,
agree.
who
I
else other
agree,
to give it to?
and this is going to make me sound like such a Bengals heavy person, but they really do have the best offense in the league. If Jamar wins the Triple Crown, does that change your opinion?
Uh, Not really. The
Okay.
triple crown is definitely a big thing for sure, especially for receivers in the league. It's hard to do, to
Mhm.
lead in receptions, yards, and touchdowns. It's definitely hard to do. But I don't know. I just think Saquon is having like a really big year, and I think he's going to get that record actually Sunday. Um, I do. I think he's going to get that record. So that'll be close. That's a great one.
I think it's going to come down to week 18 and does Saquon break the record and does Jamar win the Triple Crown?
Triple
What
crown.
happens? And I think if one happens and not the other, that's going to determine your
That's
offensive
going to
player of the year.
Yeah, 100%, 100%.
So we'll have to wait on that one.
What
I
about
think
your?
defensive player of the year. I feel like that's just always TJ Watt's award to lose.
Hmm.
But there's been some really great defensive players as well this year. So I want
Yeah.
to hear your thoughts on that.
Um. No, I like T.J. Watt for the award. Miles Garrett, he's up there too for me. He's supposed to be a free agent next year too, so that's curious to see where he'll.
And Trey Hendrickson as well. The AFC North, I think, has some of the best defensive players
Yeah, Henderson is the
in the
beast for
league.
sure. I like Henderson.
He's
Henderson, I'm sorry.
quietly slept on. He's quietly slept
Yeah,
on.
he's definitely slept on. He was slept on when he was with New Orleans too.
Yeah.
So yeah. But what about your rookie of the year? Who do you have?
Oh, I don't see how you don't give it to Jaden Daniels. Brock Bowers has been phenomenal.
My
And
guy.
for a while, I think Bo Nix was truly should have been in the conversation as well. But I
Yeah.
think that between the Hail Mary earlier this season and then a couple of game-winning drives that Jaden Daniels has led the last couple of weeks, I just, I mean, that kid is special. He's a special player,
Yeah.
and I'm very excited about his future. And again, I just think quarterbacks sometimes get a little bit more hype than a tight end like Brock Bowers, who has also
Yeah.
been phenomenal. But I don't see how you don't give it to Jaden.
Yeah. No. My pick is Jaden hands down, man. It sucks because his team was in my division, but being an Eagles fan, but no, hands down, Jaden Daniels. I mean, you got some other good contenders. There's some receivers out there. Brian Thomas,
Been
Malik
phenomenal.
Neighbors,
Yeah.
Marvin Harrison's doing okay. Like you said, Bo Nix. I like Bo Nix a lot as well.
Yeah, I want to put it on the record that I was always and I hate that the Denver Broncos that's the spot we're fighting against to get the Bengals in.
Yeah,
I really have always been a fan of Bo Nix. All through his like the struggles in college when he moved
college.
to
Yeah.
Oregon. I like Oregon as a team. I like the Dan Lanning offense, and I think Bo Nix was a great fit for it.
Hmm.
And I very much have always been a fan of Bo Nix, and everybody doubted him. And I was not one of those doubters. I'm putting that on record here in our very first podcast, is I was never a Bo Nix doubter.
I have to give Bo Nix his credit because I was definitely one of his doubters. For
He's been
sure.
really consistent. Like, has he been the best? Has he been the rookie of the year? I don't think so. But he's
No.
been incredibly consistent and very poised. Like, there are times where he goes out there and he looks phenomenal. There are times where he goes out there and it doesn't look so good, but he's never given up that like that he just has this like the way he carries himself, this
Yeah,
poise.
he has a moxie to him. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that might come from the confidence that his coach, Sean Payton, has in him. I think if Sean Payton had the number one pick, he was going with Bo Nix. And I
Yeah,
think that's a special bond that they're building. And also
I think
he's
so.
pretty old for a rookie. He was an older college player and
Yeah, he
had
had a
a lot
little
of
journey in
game.
college. Bo Nix is from Alabama. He went to Auburn for a few years, then transferred, went to Oregon, had a bounce back career at Oregon, of course. Um, but no, I think him and Sean Payton, that was literally a great coach for him. You know, I feel like some players have to be put in the right position with coaches, and I feel like that was like a perfect fit for Bo Nix to get with Sean Payton.
Yeah.
And you know, Denver just needs to get some pieces around him, and you know they'll be fine. But no, hands down though, Jaden Daniels, rookie of the year, in my opinion,
Yeah.
for sure.
Special player. Again, another LSU guys. Those LSU guys, they're special. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, yeah, no, they definitely are. They're definitely doing their thing. I like Brian Thomas a lot for the Jags. He's the bright spot to their season for sure. They're having a rough year, but
Yeah, I think he's
yeah.
gonna have a great career as well. I do agree with you. He was one of my favorite, as we kind of shift gears, I think a little bit here, one of my favorite fantasy pickups was Brian Thomas.
Oh, okay, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So what about let's talk about fantasy.
First of
Um,
all, I'm a fantasy football champion. I just want
I know
I
I
want to
saw
let the
that.
crowd know, okay? I want
Yeah,
the
I
crowd
did
know.
see that. Almond Raw got you them points the other day.
Amon-Ra St. Brown, one of my favorite non-Bengals players. He carried
Yes,
me this season. He carried
Little Giant.
me consistent and wonderful. Okay.
No, Almond Raw is a man, Little Giant for sure.
He is awesome. But yes, I am a fantasy football champion this year. In one of my leagues. In one of them. But we're still
I
counting.
was none. I didn't win any of them. But yeah, fantasy. Like what's your take on like the biggest losers, the biggest busts, or maybe a surprise person that you might have not expected but had a great year?
I would say, I mean, we just talked about that rookie of the year race. Those two rookies that we talked about in Jaden Daniels and Brock Bowers, I think they were some of the biggest value draft picks because Jaden Daniels looks like he's probably going to finish the season as the QB2 or the QB3 total. And as a
Mm-hmm.
rookie, nobody really knew what he was going to do. So I actually picked him up as my backup quarterback in probably round 10, 9 or 10. Uh,
Smart moves.
Same with Brock Bowers. Um, I think he was a little more talked about coming in, but I think I picked him up in whatever it was, round 8 or 9,
Uh
and
huh.
again, big value picks in the rookies. Bucky Irving as a rookie, one of the best waiver wire pickups because I don't think he was drafted in a lot of leagues. I
Yeah,
picked him up off the waivers, and I have never been happier about a decision that I've made in fantasy football.
you got to steal
So
with
I
that
do
one.
think the rookies and Brian Thomas Jr. is as well. I think
Yeah,
so those rookies were phenomenal in those value draft pick spots. I don't think that they get talked about enough, and I think people a lot of times will doubt um
yeah.
they'll doubt the rookies and they won't be too sure. So
Sure. Yeah, so they'll kind of yeah. No, Brian Thomas definitely one of mine biggest surprises as well. I did not think, you know, especially with Trevor Lawrence going down with that injury and Jaguars struggling, I didn't think he would have put up the numbers, but he definitely did. I had him on my bench as well. I had to eventually start him, you know, because he was just doing so well and being consistent. So, you know, um, I would say my biggest surprise actually is Saquon.
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, I knew he would. I knew he would. You know, have a decent year, but I had no idea it would be like this. You know, over 2,000 yards and back to all these games. He's just rushing over 100 yards, 150 there. You know,
One of the fantasy MVPs for sure. I think Saquon, Derrick
yeah,
Henry, Jamar, they've all been fantastic. Again, a
yeah.
lot it
Joe too. Joe
matches up
Burrow.
for those awards. Best stack of the year was Joe and Jamar, though, for sure.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. No,
they were pretty exceptional. I think some of the biggest busts, I mean, we're not even going to include CMC in that conversation, right? Like
yeah. I mean, we can. I can't allow injuries to
yeah,
do
we're
that.
not gonna focus on that. But if you did draft CMC first overall, I do feel sorry for you because
Yeah, yeah.
I
That was
would never have done that.
never.
Um, Some other busts. I feel like Marvin Harrison was talked about as a big deal
I
and
was going to say
put
Marvin.
up big fantasy numbers. Uh,
Yeah, and that's my guy too, Ohio State. But
Brees Hall, you never knew if he was going to put up 20 points or 3 points. Um,
mhm.
who was drafted way too high? Oh God, there was a bunch. Um, who else? Who's a big bust? I feel like there are.
um, a bust in my opinion. Tua to me, he had a decent year, but I don't know. Um, there was Tua, then there was the who am I thinking about? Can't think of his name, but it'll come to me. But no, yeah, the bust was definitely there. Are definitely a lot of busts for sure.
For me personally, it was Marvin Harrison. I know I picked him up, and I was extremely disappointed in the production.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
all right.
It took him a while to get going, and then it was pretty inconsistent. But I think if I had Brees Hall, I might say the same thing.
That's my pick. That's who I
Those
was
for me
thinking of.
are two of the
Brees
big,
Hall.
like first, second round picks that didn't perform. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Comeback player of the year though, in fantasy, J.K. Dobbins.
J.K. Big J.
Yeah.
He had definitely had about definitely could be comeback of the player of the year, uh, like originally as well. I mean,
Yeah.
he had
In
those.
NFL, yeah.
He had a couple of big injuries, like career-ending ones, and he bounced back, man. And Coach Jim Harbaugh, he likes to run the ball, so
Yeah, if
uh,
you were smart and got rid of him in your fantasy, like I did after week 8 or 9, I think he's your comeback player of the year. I think if you held on to him, they did put him on IR, which I think was smart by the Chargers, um,
uh-huh,
as they kind of protected that he's known for getting those injuries midway
yeah,
through the season,
he is
and they did protect him, and now he should be back healthy for the playoffs. And the Chargers being in the playoffs are going to need him and that run game.
100%.
So I think that was smart, but I think that's the only reason that you could say maybe he wasn't the fantasy comeback player of the year. But couple weeks that I had him, he put up monster numbers for me.
Yeah, yeah, no, definitely, no, that's dope. All right, well, let's talk about what's going on today with the triple header. We have college football. Yesterday, we had a college football game as well. Penn State versus Boise State. Penn
Yep.
State ended up getting the win and moving on. So, they'll play the winner of Georgia Notre Dame. But today, you got Texas Arizona State today at 1 o'clock. And you got my guys. I'm repping Ohio State. The rematch versus Oregon, which I think will be the biggest game of the day.
Biggest game of the day for sure.
Yeah. And then the nightcap is what
Notre
is it?
Dame, Georgia.
Notre Dame, Georgia. Yeah.
Yeah.
So who do you got? What are your picks? Who do you like?
Well, first of all, I think that Penn State yesterday and the win yesterday, they have the easiest road to the championship,
Easiest
in
road.
my opinion. So I do think that we'll see them there because they got hot at the right time. They're a very, very good team.
Hmm.
I think we're gonna see them there. Uh,
Yeah.
the Texas Arizona State game. I mean, listen, I've always liked Texas. I think they have a really great program. I think they have a program that knows how to win, and I think that'll showcase itself in the playoff.
Hmm.
But that's gonna be a good close matchup for them. Ohio State, Oregon. I am so excited for this rematch. I think
Yeah.
it's gonna be the most fun game of the day. I'm sat for that game. Uh,
Yeah. Granddaddy of them all, the Rose Bowl.
I don't know how you doubt the undefeated team right now. And I think that Dan Lanning has done an incredible job with his program. I think they've really found something with Dylan Gabriel. Um,
Hmm.
and you talk about the team that's hot, they're undefeated. So it's hard not to go with them, but if there's a team that's going to beat them, it's going to be Ohio State.
Yeah. If there's a team that could beat them, two teams I think that could probably give Oregon a problem is Ohio State and Texas that are in the playoffs currently. Um, No, yeah, like you touched on it, Texas and Arizona State. I like Arizona State. I want to root for them so bad, but I like their quarterback Sam Levitt. He's a freshman. He had a great year. Their running back, Sam Scatabo, he's a great back. He's a 1,500-yard guy. Their offense is good. I just don't trust their defense against Texas offense.
Yep,
You know,
I would
so
agree.
that's just the only thing. And then can their offense keep up with Texas? Putting up points. So I'm real interested to see that there, how that game will come out. Arizona State's defense will have to play lights out for them to have a chance to win. They'll have
Yeah.
to cause a lot of turnovers. Have some big plays. Get some momentum here and there. That'll be the only way I see them beating the Longhorns. And
I
the
like
rematch.
Notre Dame in the upset over Georgia. I
You
think
got.
I like Notre Dame in this one.
I do too.
Yeah.
I swear I do. I was talking with someone last night and they were asking me about that. And they were like, oh, Georgia's going to blow them out. I said, I don't know about that, man. I like Notre Dame. They have a tough defense. They can run the ball as well. I think that their quarterback will have to play a big part in that. He'll have to have a big game as well
Need a big
for
game.
them to win. But I like their defense. And then this, Georgia's quarterback, the Stockton kid, we really don't know too much about him or what he can do. I know he's athletic. He can run better than Carson Beck can, but I just don't know if he can pass it better than Carson Beck. So
I think Georgia may be better off without Carson Beck. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not hot on
I'm
Carson
not high on
Beck.
him either.
Yeah.
He definitely dropped his draft stock this year. At the beginning of the year, they had him like a first rounder, top 10 possibly, but I mean, man, he's had some bad games. He's thrown multiple interceptions in multiple games, about 5 games this year. He
Yeah.
definitely wasn't playing well. Even he wasn't playing well, in my opinion, before the injury when he got injured in the SEC championship game. I feel like he wasn't playing that well. So they kind of needed that boost from the backup to get over the hump, I think. But
I
yeah,
agree. And I think the next thing that we're going to talk about next week is we're going to focus on the draft and whose draft stock is where and who we want to see go to
yeah,
our team after we finish week 18 and it's kind of solidified where that draft order is going to be.
uh-huh.
I think
We'll
that's
definitely touch in on
something
that.
that we touch on next week and focus heavy on. So that would be
Yeah, for
exciting.
sure. No,
Yeah,
definitely. The
I
Ohio
think
State Oregon game. I'm a Buckeye fan. I hate to sound biased, but I feel like Ohio State should have won the first game. You know, just my opinion. I feel like they should have won the first game. It was a couple close calls at the end, couple sketchy calls. The offensive pass interference on Jeremiah Smith was kind of sketchy to me. They needed to just let the guys play on that. But then Will Howard sliding at the end with the seconds left, it kind of just was like, And then, Dan Lanning, he was smart. That was actually a good move, putting 12 men on the field to kind of slow Ohio State down, on that last drive. But I don't know. It's hard to beat a team twice in a year, especially in college. Ohio State, I mean, I think they're going to get the win. Oregon is tough. Dylan Gabriel's a great quarterback. They got speedy weapons on the outside, Tez Johnson. They got Stewart on the outside. They got a good defense as well. But I don't know. Ohio State plays like they've been playing in the first game. I don't think that they'll be able to be beat. So I think it's going to be a close game. I think Ohio State will win by like 5. I think it'll be like 30-35 Ohio State.
it's a good prediction. Yeah, I think Ohio State really just got out coached in that first matchup. Uh,
100%.
and they've been pretty hot. So if Ryan Day can get it together and outcoach Dan Lanning, I think, like you said, it's hard to beat a team twice in a season. So it could
Yeah.
definitely be Ohio State's day, but they do struggle against those top 25 teams. So
They definitely do. We're going to see. Ryan Day's had a rough outing the last month or so. Losing to Michigan and losing the big games and stuff like that. So he's on the hot seat out here in Columbus. There,
I was just gonna ask you, is he on the hot seat? I think so.
I kind of think so. Really, like I still something inside of me still like wants to give the man a chance. But it's like because he's done so well. I mean, he's definitely he's like 51. He's like 51-5 as a coach. His only
Yeah, but what's
losses
his
are like,
record against those top 10 teams?
yeah, yeah. That definitely matters. So he's definitely going to have to. I think if he wins today, he saves his job. But I know I won't say he'll save his job. I think he'll be more on the hot seat. I think Ohio State will give him another year. I think he'll have at least one more year after this year, regardless of what happens today. He'll have one more year for sure. But no, I definitely got them winning. And then Georgia, Notre Dame. Like I said, I definitely I like Notre Dame in this one, man. Give me the Irish. Marcus Freeman, he's a young, great coach, Ohio
Great.
State alum as well. He's got those boys ready. He coaches well on defense. I just think, Notre Dame's offense is going to have to play well. Their quarterback's going to have to play well in order for them to win. Georgia has a tough defense, and you give Kirby Smart a couple weeks to prepare. It's kind of hard to beat them guys.
Dangerous. Dangerous. Yeah, I think Riley Leonard needs to have a big day. I do think he was a good decision for them in the quarterback spot.
Yeah, from
Um,
Duke. Yeah,
yeah,
that definitely was a
transfer
great.
over from Duke, but I think that Notre Dame has found itself the last couple of years with that same quarterback problem. They keep grabbing, an older veteran guy from another ACC school.
Yeah,
They do with Sam Hartman in Wake Forest, and they think that they're gonna be able to save that program, but you really only got 1 year out of the guy. So
yeah,
you're gonna have to find some solutions to that, long-term solutions to their quarterback problem.
yeah. I think they definitely going to have to recruit a guy and get a guy in there, which which I think they are in the process of doing. There is a kid, I can't think of his name, but definitely Notre Dame is going to be a problem. I think for Georgia on the defensive side of the ball, I think they'll be able. I don't think this in the past, but now they'll be able to line up in the on the offensive line, defensive line, in the trenches and battle with Georgia. I don't think they could have did that in the past, but this year they definitely have a solid team, solid D. They have a good old line as well. That's why Jeremiah's Love having such a great year running the ball. So yeah, definitely give me the Irish in the upset. Yeah,
Good slate of games today, and an
definitely.
exciting college football playoff. I really like the 12-team format. I think it's been fantastic so far, and an exciting conclusion coming up.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about the 12-team format actually, because there's been a lot of speculation this year about putting the highest ranked conference champions at the top four spots. That's kind of how like Boise got to be a three and Arizona State's a four. But like as you can see, like Boise State, they didn't really even to me didn't belong in the playoff. If you ask me, I don't think they could compete with the big boys, and it showed with Penn State yesterday. But I'm curious to see Arizona State today. Hopefully they kind of make it a game because I think there'll definitely be some changes coming to the playoff format next year. I think they're just kind of like, experimenting with it the first year being 12 teams. But that whole thing with the four highest ranked conference champions, I think they're going to just put the four highest ranked best teams in those positions instead of conference champions. That's what I think they should do. It makes it a
I
little
think
bit
with
more competitive.
I think with any new format, you're gonna have trial and error. I think the 12-team format is absolutely the right decision and the way to go. It makes things more exciting. There are more games, it's more marketable, and you don't run into that problem of having to select the four teams anymore, and issues that came up like Florida State last year.
Yeah,
So I do think this is the right number of teams and the right format. And they're going to figure out with trial and error. And like you said, there's been that conversation already. So that's a
yeah,
positive.
yeah. Yeah, just
More
make it a
baby
little
steps.
bit more competitive and challenging for some of the teams. Like you said, Penn State had a
Easy road. They have
yeah,
easy
yeah,
road. Yeah.
yeah, for sure. James Franklin definitely got saved. Yeah, I think he's one of the people on the hot seat too, for sure, at Penn State.
Yeah.
He's like he kind of just wins the games he's supposed to, but he never wins the games he should. And this is definitely one of the games he definitely will have to win next week. You know, in order for them to not have him on the hot seat. But no, who do you have winning it all, and who do you have in the national championship, and who do you have winning it all?
I think your winner of Ohio State, Oregon today wins it all. I do. I think
I
those are the
agree.
two best teams, in my opinion, that are in the playoff, and I think they
Hmm.
play today. And
Yeah.
that's kind of
It's
crazy.
kind of like a national championship game, in my
But this
opinion.
is
That's how I
gonna
kind
feel
of,
like the national championship game for me.
yeah.
I think these are the two best teams that are on that list. So I think whichever team wins, I think they're gonna end up, you know, meeting Penn State and beating Penn State. So
Okay. Yeah. No, I agree with you there. I think the winner of Ohio State Oregon is definitely going to the championship. That'll be the winner, in my opinion, of the championship. Coming out the other side, uh, I want to say Texas is going to be the team that they'll face, but I don't know. It just kind of depends. Georgia has had Texas number this year, and if Georgia gets past Notre Dame, that's who they'll play next. So
yeah, I don't think that they do. I don't think Georgia gets past Notre Dame today, and I think that
yeah, I don't think they do
I think that
either.
Texas will end up being the one to meet them there.
Yeah, I think Notre Dame will beat Georgia today, and then Texas will beat Notre Dame in the next one, and it'll be either Oregon or Ohio State and Texas in the national championship. But I will have Oregon or Ohio State winning it.
I agree.
Definitely.
I think this today is your actual championship, and whoever wins that game is going to have the momentum that carries them to win the whole thing.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Definitely for sure. Well, that wraps everything up for the show. Welcome to 2025. It's a new year. Happy New Year to
New
everyone.
year, new podcast. We're getting
Yeah,
it rolling. And
definitely.
yeah, let's make sure that people know too, like this is not just going to be a football podcast. We are going to cover other sports. Right now,
Definitely.
football is the hot topic. It's a big couple of weeks, but we are definitely going to be talking about the NBA, the WNBA, college basketball, college sports as a whole.
Yeah, definitely.
We missed the exciting NCAA women's college volleyball
We,
showdown that happened. That was
yeah.
cool. That was a big
Who-
game that we missed. We weren't on it yet.
Yeah, we weren't. You're right. Who ended up winning that? Was it Penn State?
Penn State.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah, congrats to them. The volleyball is tough. Yeah, it's competitive too. I definitely love the volleyball, especially the women's. It's definitely more tough, you know. So yeah, shout out to Penn State. Who did they beat? Who did they? Was it
Louisville.
Louisville? Okay, yeah.
It was the first,
No,
I think
shout
it was
out.
the first time that there were two female coaches in the women's college volleyball national championship, which is really cool.
Shout out to them ladies. Yeah,
Everybody watches women's sports, you know.
yeah. Women. Yeah, definitely. Women's sports is on the rise for
It's
sure.
spectacular. What I am excited about this week is Caitlin Clark is going to be on the New Heights podcast.
Oh
Um,
yeah, I think I seen you post something about that too. Yeah.
yeah, very excited about that. Caitlin Clark's that girl, so
Yeah, she is. I love Caitlin Clark. She's a
get into
she's a
that.
beast for sure. She's definitely the future of the WNBA
Yeah,
face. Yeah,
so looks like for us next week, we're definitely gonna be getting into some mock draft stuff, potentially touching on some basketball conversations that are happening as well.
yeah. We'll definitely touch on some mock draft. We'll touch on some NBA. Kind of going into the All Star break. See what standings are, what teams are looking good, what teams aren't. That type of thing. But yeah, no, welcome everyone to the He Said, She Said podcast. And, my lovely host, Tony, I'm Big Red. We thank you guys for supporting and watching and listening. And we will see you guys soon. Much love and peace.